Konoha, top psychiatrist, fixing ninja trauma, from Tsunade to Obito. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 31. Hearing this, Joshinai gently wiped the corners of his somewhat moist eyes. From the mission to the present, Uzumaki Shina has opened Kagura's Heart Eye. Kagura Heart Eye, the ability of the Uzumaki clan to inherit the Limit Realm, can sense things within a radius of 10 kilometers when cast. Among them, it can also sense the malice of the comer. As soon as someone close to her has malicious intentions, she will have a feeling of nausea. Originally, Uzumaki Jyoshina would not awaken Kagura's Heart Eye. After all, Kagura Heart Eye was in the original Uzumaki clan, and only one or two of the hundreds of people could awaken. Now that Vortex Joshinai can awaken, it is thanks to Bei Yan's help. It was Kitayama who helped her awaken the Kagura Heart Eye. In this world, only 3 people know that she has awakened. One is Bei Yan, and the other is herself. The other is Uzumaki Mito, who also awakened Kagura's heart. Under Kagura's perception, Kushina knew that from beginning to end, the 2 dark captains, Kosuke and Rika, were people who wholeheartedly protected themselves and for their own good. It may sound a bit fanciful, but that's what it is. What Kosuke said is also true, that in order to save Uzumaki Joshinai, he did not hesitate to sacrifice himself. Since this is the case, it is even less likely that she will let these people die for themselves. The responsibility and cause and effect that are born in this way are simply too heavy. Maybe I really have to give selflessly to Konoha village wholeheartedly in the future. This was not Joshinai's intention. Unexpectedly, I still need to ask you for help, Uzumaki Joshinai snorted arrogantly in his heart, and slowly put his hand on the left heart mouth, which was closest to the heart. There were marks that made her blush. A wisp of chakra was slowly injected into the pattern in the close of the left heart, and Joshinai's eyes suddenly widened, pretending to be something, and fell straight down. The 4 people who were always guarding Uzumaki Joshinai saw her suddenly fall, and at the same time they were shocked and wanted to step forward to check the situation. At this moment, a thin line tied to the air was crossing. Everywhere they went, Kosuke, Rika, and the 2 elite members of the Upper Shinobi Dark Division were all stunned in place, maintaining their original movements, and their eyes gradually became unfocused. Then, a young man dressed in a black combat uniform appeared beside him, quickly retracting the kuwu that was still sweeping towards the distance. He did not hurt the 4 people in front of him, but only strengthened his hypnotic power, so that the 3 elite upper shinobi and 1 special upper shinobi fell into a hypnotized sluggish state. They are all now immersed in a beautiful dream, just sleep. Joshinai, who pretended to have fallen to the ground, jumped up directly on the spot after sensing Bei Yan's chakra, and flew to Bei Yan. Yan, you're finally here. The overwhelming joy echoed in Uzumaki Joshinai's heart. She felt that she was the happiest girl in the world at this time. Fiercely sniffing the familiar breath on Bei Yan's body, Joshinai felt that he was more relaxed than ever. As long as Bei Yan was by her side, she could feel an unprecedented sense of security. That is, even if the 3 elite shinobi guards by her side, they cannot give her a sense of security. Bei Yan gently held Joshinai, looking at the other party's excited energy, with a spoiled smile on his face. Okay, I said, if you are in danger, just inject chakra into the mark, then I will appear by your side to protect you. Look, I'm not coming. I've always believed it. After Uzumaki Joshinai glanced at Bei Yan, he began to laugh presumptuously. Laughing and laughing, he sobbed on Bei Yan's back. Bei Yan felt the mood change of the girl on his back, 1 head and 2 big. As an excellent psychiatrist, he naturally knows Joshinai's current situation. Coming to Konoha from the destroyed Uzumaki clan, there was only 1 member of the same clan left by his side. The meaning of her existence is to serve as a container for the 9 tails. Just like my own grandmother. When she was a child, she didn't understand this, but when her mind was mature and she knew a lot of things, she naturally resisted it. But even if she resisted, she did not dare to show it. Just because Konoha village is not suitable for Vortex village, it is not a place where she can spread wantonly. Just because he is from an out village and has red hair, someone bullies himself and laughs at himself. If she breaks a big taboo, maybe she won't even have the freedom she has today. Although he has the care of the Uzumaki Mito of the same clan on weekdays, in the matter of the 9-tailed container, the other party has no way to do it after all. Numbness, low self-esteem, disappointment, and the hidden deepest longing. This is the emotional world that Bei Yan showed in the eyes of the other party when he met Uzumaki Mito. At that time, she was like a wounded puppy, pitiful, weak and helpless, expecting her master to take her home. When Uzumaki Shinai looked into Kamibiya's eyes, her eyes lit up for the first time in front of people outside Uzumaki Mito. Especially when Bei Yan pulled up her squatting in the corner to fill her stomach and go for entertainment, the brilliance in her eyes became brighter and brighter. When Bei Yan completed the psychological counseling of Uzumaki Joshinai, her whole heart was placed on Bei Yan. At that time, the wave of feng shui men came to sabotage, and Uzumaki Joshinai did not kill him on the spot, which was the result of forcibly suppressing himself. Crying and laughing, Uzumaki Joshinai fell into a deep sleep after changing positions and lying in Bei Yan's arms. They had been rushing since the day before yesterday, and even the vortex Joshinai, who had extremely strong spiritual power and vitality, was too tired. The other 4 people who were hypnotized by Bei Yan and slept in the past were all because they were too tired mentally, so they didn't spend much effort on him. Otherwise, it would really take a lot of effort. So, let me see what's around. While speaking, Bei Yan slowly raised his index and middle fingers, and his right hand simply made a print. Restless, an invisible fluctuation spread in all directions, sensing that ninjutsu was frantically consuming his chakra and spiritual power. Fortunately, just using the Flying Thunder God technique to teleport most of the fire country, it only cost 1/5 of the chakra, that is, more than 20 calories. There is still a little margin to unleash ninjutsu. Oh, there are quite a few ninjutsu. Episode 32, North. A few kilometers away from the mountain, more than 30 ninjas wearing red turbans and brown and red vests are hiding inside. Directly in front of these more than 30 ninjas was a rather thick-looking and strong man. Although he is about 30 years old, he looks almost the same as a middle-aged person in his 40s. At this time, all the ninjas looked at the less with respect and their faces resolute. It was as if the task they were doing now was not to encircle the geniuses of other countries, but to die generously for their own village. He had tracked and intercepted the 5 people in the hidden place of the mountain for a day and a night. At first, they received news that a suspected trace of Konoha's next Rinjuli appeared near Iwanokuni. Out of the intention that Konoha village would continue to be strong, the high level of Iwane village immediately decided, intercept Uzumaki Joshinai when necessary. They estimated, if Konoha doesn't find a human pillar power container that is comparable to Uzumaki Mito, then Konoha may lag behind Iwahide village in terms of the base of the final weapon. At that time, Konoha village, which has no confidence, will usher in the toughest moment of Iwahide village. You know, their Yenin village has coveted the fertile land of the Fire Nation for a long time. Suddenly, there was a chakra rhythm beside the less. Boom! As someone appeared next to someone using teleportation, a ninja dressed in the hidden dark costume of Iwahide village appeared next to him. After confirming that it was his own person, Les took the news from the other party's hands. When he opened it, his expression immediately changed. 4 tails and 5 tails show signs of running away at the same time? Les suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. As the son of 3 generations of Tokage, Les knows how strong the power of the tailed beast is. Although it is not as strong as the strongest 9 tails, it is not something that a ninja below the shadow level can handle. Urgent mission, Lord Les immediately set off to return to Yenin village to sit down, and the rest of the people will continue to carry out the interception mission. Les looked at the dark part, as if he wanted to completely see through the dark part in front of him. Whose order is this? What about my father? The Les sound is cold and does not have any temperature. The dark part hesitated for a moment, but decided to answer. The Council of Elders agrees that Lord Tsuchikage has not returned to the hidden village because he has something to do, and the power he ordered has been temporarily requisitioned by them. Huh. Les let out a soft, huh. He had a smile on his lips, but his eyes weren't smiling at all. At this time, Les was angry in his heart. His father is still in the prime of life, and he has the most powerful blood succession. What kind of crazy thing gave orders indiscriminately at this time? Seeing that he could directly annihilate Konoha's next candidate for the Pillar Force before the arrival of Konoha's reinforcements, now he was directly brought back by a transfer order? Credit just give it away? Even if he is the son of Tsuchikage, he has some dedication and promotion, but he is not pumping his brain at this time. Who will take my place? Les let out a breath, and his gaze slowly fell silent. As soon as his voice fell, a ninja of the same age as him, but only at the level of an upper ninja, appeared 3 meters away. Les glanced at the other party, and then looked at the dark part. Just him? The words with a clear and mocking meaning were tantamount to directly making the face of the former Ben Falcon, who came to grab the credit, turn red. But he can't speak, otherwise if he says something wrong, the Les punches him lightly. Les took a deep breath. He knew what was most important when his father was not in Yenin village. He is even acquainted with the 4-tailed and 5-tailed people Julie, and he has been friends for many years, so naturally, he can't sit idly by. The credit for this time, don't leave it alone. He looked at Chi Brush and looked at his more than 30 subordinates. You heard about it. If you are willing to go back with me, leave now. After speaking, Les didn't look at the front falcon, and jumped away. As soon as the Les left, everyone else brushed and followed, and no one was left behind. The members of the Dark Department did not speak, followed behind the Les, and made their position clear. Minato Hayabusa saw that the other party did not leave a single soldier for himself, and his face turned livid. Fortunately, he was not unprepared. He made a ninjutsu gesture and waited for a few minutes, and more than 50 figures appeared in the originally empty place. Among these people, the strength varies from middle patients to elite upper patients. When I return in triumph, I will definitely pull you off the horse. Minato Hayabusa is a member of the big clan in Iwahide village, and although his comprehensive strength is not as good as the current Tokage Inoki clan, he can also rank second. They have long coveted the seat of Tokage, but helplessly, the first generation of Tokage is Inoki's grandfather, and the second generation of Tokage is Inoki's master, and they have no chance at all. Originally, I thought that the 3 generations of Taing were in their 50s and 60s, and they had almost abdicated, but they saw that each other's sons had reached the elite upper endurance, and they were about to catch up with the quasi-shadow level, and they still looked energetic. Compared to Konoha Village's ape flying son, he is less than 50 years old, and he has spirit. The combat power is even more under the blessing of the blood succession elimination dust, a fierce batch. I really don't know how many people survived to death. At this moment, many people can't sit still. Who doesn't want to be in power, and who doesn't want to control the power of Yanin Village, one of the 5 Yin villages? They all want to. It is impossible to stage a coup d'état, then they will only die faster. Today, only by constantly accumulating credit for oneself and under the merit of the Lord can there be an opportunity. It has to be said that where there are people, there will be struggles and calculations. Even Iwahide Village, which has been advocated by the 3 generations of Tokei Jinoki for a long time, is an undercurrent. Episode 33. To the south, the hidden jungle. More than 40 ninjas also gather here. These ninjas are dressed in black and white, and the forehead logo is Yunin Village. Ninjas from Yunin Village, most of them have more 3-dimensional facial features, more wheat-colored skin, and prefer Western people who like to sunbathe. Compared with Yanin Village, which can cause internal strife at this time, the ninjas of Yunin Village still have less struggle for power. After all, today's Thunder Shadow is too strong. A few years ago, the 3rd generation of Thunder Kage fought Yaoi alone because Yao escaped the seal. In the end, the 2 sides have exhausted each other's efforts. Yaoi was also sealed back. The same has been true several times before. In Yunin Village, the concept of the supremacy of power is vividly displayed. For the wolf extermination that can fight with the 8-tailed beast, and even faintly suppress it, everyone admires and respects it from the bottom of their hearts. For the orders personally given by Lei Ying, they will also choose to obey unconditionally. At this moment, a trace of chakra appeared in the hand of the leading man in the front. After seeing clearly the information transmitted from the north, Blai's expression did not change at all. For the urine nature of Yanin Village, he knows everything. If it weren't for Lord Lycage's personal order, he might have directly let go of Konoha's group and targeted the garbage in Iwahide Village. It is well known that Yunin Village and Yanin Village have irreversible contradictions. It's just that they don't know that in the future, Yunin Village and Yanin Village will cause the hatred value of both sides to climb to the highest peak because of the death of one person. Everyone started repairing and started fighting after dark, and they must not be allowed to leave here this time. While speaking, Braipan sat on the ground, closed his eyes to recover his strength and spirit. The rest waited without saying a word, either taking out food to replenish their strength, or leaning against the trees with their eyes closed, keeping the sound of breathing as low as possible, and quietly waiting for the time to attack. Neither the north nor the south was worried that the Joshinai people would flee to the east or west. In the east is an endless desert, with no water source and a radius of thousands of miles, and it is the only desert area outside the wind. Conditions are tough. It is also home to some deadly poisonous insects, which are no less dangerous than confronting them directly. To the west, there is a great abyss that can be called Heavenly Graben. The depth of the abyss is unknown, and the neighboring Yunin village knows according to the records that this is a Heavenly Graben that existed before the Warring States. And once ordinary ninjas lose their footing and fall, it is impossible to have a chance to come up, because the rock wall of this abyss can weaken the characteristics of chakra's attachment. If you can't concentrate on controlling your chakra, keep your body shape from falling, then you are likely to die without a place to be buried. If you really want to escape, you can try jumping over or flying over an abyss tens of kilometers wide. In the eyes of the pursuing ninjas in Yunin village and Awain village, the only way out for Uzumaki Jyoshurnai is in the north and south directions. Having seen all the enemies, Bei Yan also knew the current situation. In addition to any gathered together, there were also some scattered others, a total of hundreds of people. The strength is between middle patients and elite upper patients. He felt that before he left, Sarutobi looked like he wanted to support, but he was not very eager. It's really a brain cramp. Your own Ninja Village Pillar Force candidate is facing a fatal crisis. You still feel that you are not in a hurry? Although Sarutobi Richo and Shimura Danzo must have secretly prepared several human pillar power containers, but Joshinai is the most suitable. There is no one. Moreover, he sent 12 members of the Dark Division, as well as a Nuga Butterfly and a Hyuga clan and the Wave Wind Division, plus him, a medical ninja who only had special patients on the surface. Do you really want everyone to be so brave on 5? Even if there is a Wave Feng Shui gate in the team, this man who instantly killed dozens and hundreds of ninjas with the title of Flying Thunder God in the Third World War of the future ninja world, and was known as the Golden Flash. It's still not enough to see. After all, the current time node is still several years away from the Third Ninja World War in the original timeline. Even if a genius is like a wave of Feng Shui men, he only has the strength of Shangnin. The Flying Thunder God technique was not as fancy as it was used a few years later. So, just in case, he needed to kill everyone here before Konoha's reinforcements arrived. As for why he didn't directly use the Flying Thunder God technique to get out of the encirclement, Bei Yan looked at Uzumaki Joshinai, who had fallen asleep in his arms due to overwork and mental excitement. She had struggled to survive for so long under these pursuit ninja interceptions. If you don't respond to those ninjas, you can't say it. It's a pity. Bei Yan caressed his left eye, and the kaleidoscope riding wheel eye of the Bagua array pattern appeared. It's a pity that it came in a bit of a hurry, and I couldn't replicate Makoto's moon reading and soul spear. If Bei Yan replicates Makoto's kaleidoscopic chakra eye technique, he will definitely try his power in this battle. As for whether Bei Yan needs to open the extreme sublimation of his right eye, his combat power will be upgraded to the super shadow level. It doesn't have to be. Don't use an elephant to crack a nut. It's just a group of rabble whose strength has not reached the shadow level. He looked at the setting sun, and the timer in his mind was approaching 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Bite. So, let's check in first. He looked forward to the appearance of something good this time, so that Bei Yan, who had not seen blood for a long time, could exercise his muscles and bones. System, start check-in. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Episode 3. Sign in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Mudun Blood Succession Limit, Mudun Ninjutsu Daquan Empowerment, Chakra plus 20, Spiritual Power plus 20, Pupil Power plus 20. In the blink of an eye, Bei Yan felt that his body was rejuvenated like never before. Chakra, Spiritual Power, and Pupil Power skyrocketed at the same time. There is naturally no need to say more about the amount of chakra, and the spiritual power related to illusion and medical ninjutsu is also of great benefit to him. The improvement of pupil power was what he most desperately wanted. It was impossible not to use kaleidoscope chakra eyes before his eyes evolved into kaleidoscopic chakra eyes. Since you use kaleidoscope Sharingan, it will definitely weaken the vision of the kaleidoscope chakra eye. Even if he synthesizes all the check-ins and obtains a lot of life force and pupil power that can delay the decay of the kaleidoscope pupil power, and even the blessing of Yomuduan, he will still slowly proceed in an irreversible direction. Now, the improvement of pupil power made him even happier than getting the rest of the things. It would be nice if I could get the body of an immortal. At that time, the kaleidoscopic vision attenuation problem that Bei Yan is worried about can be perfectly solved. Maybe you can also make the kaleidoscope chakra eye become an eternal kaleidoscope chakra eye. However, Muduan's role is also really good. The improvement of its vitality and chakra is also very satisfactory for Bei Yan. Mudun's blood succession limit is Mudun, who is combined through gene fragments that have not been transcribed and translated and expressed in Bei Yan's body, and finally achieves Muduan. His Mudun does not belong to the bloodline of the original Hokage, but belongs to his own bloodline. This decided that Bei Yan could not transplant the cells between the 1,000-hand pillars through the Uchiha spot, so that Indra and Azura chakra and the remaining soul power on his body could fuse. Open the Eye of Reincarnation before death. Bei Yan is his own bloodline, and the Eye of Reincarnation can only be obtained through check-in. Unless one day he obtains the bloodline of the Big Tube, his genes are transcribed and expressed again, and the Eye of Reincarnation will be captured. Finally, there is the Daigo empowerment of Mudun Daquan. In an instant, countless people who had used Wooden Dun ninjas had used Wooden Dun appeared in his mind and were proficient. Each skill is as if it has been cultivated for decades, and it is Mudun Flower Tree Realm Advent, or Mudun Tree Realm Advent, at will. As for the Immortal Law Mudun True Thousands of Hands, and Top Incarnated Buddha, that need to step into the immortal mode to use, they cannot be used for the time being. But once Bei Yan can enter the immortal mode, he will definitely be able to use it at will. It seems that helping Tsunade completely solve the problem of hemophobia, and allowing Makoto to open the kaleidoscope chakra eye to get the reward has reached the limit. Kitayama knew that if he was in one day at the same time to help Tsunade completely cure hemophobia and complete Makoto's kaleidoscope evolution, the rewards you get may get the body of an immortal and something more valuable. Even if you weigh some chips, the Eye of Reincarnation and the Eye of Rebirth have a chance. But Bei Yan treated the two for a long time, and they continued to sprinkle wool, which was considered bald. Now it's good to get these rewards all at once. He looked around, thinking of Konoha's reinforcements who were far away from here. I can't continue to wait here for a day and a night. If you don't quickly solve these chasing ninjas in front of you, maybe a Wayne village and Yunin village will increase the investment of ninjas. At that time, it will not be good to miss things in Tsunade. At this moment, Vortex Gyoshinai, who was lying in Bei Yan's arms and rested for a while, woke up. Her eyes were slightly confused, but after seeing Bei Yan, the corners of his mouth immediately brought a smile. How does it feel? Bei Yan had already checked, and Uzumaki Gyoshinai had no obvious injuries. Rather, except for the tiredness of the road, there were no injuries. Obviously, this team protected her well. Ah, I almost forgot. You hurry up and treat Uncle Kosuke and Sister Rika. They suffered a lot of injuries to protect me. After saying that, he pulled Bei Yan to the 4 people who were leaning on the rock wall and passed out. Bei Yan did not refuse. In the end, these people are the benefactors of Uzumaki Gyoshinai, and he will not see death without saving them. He stretched out his 2 hands and covered the hearts of the 2 of them. As a green fluorescent light emerged, Kosuke and Rika were wrapped in the glow of the palm cactus. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. The place injured by ninjutsu and weapons is not fatal. I'll stop the bleeding for them first. As for the cure, in order to avoid suspicion, I want the reinforcements that my shadow doppelganger follows to arrive. Uzumaki Gyoshinai was also not Xiaobai, who did not understand anything, and she nodded in agreement. According to my estimates, Konoha reinforcements may have to wait a day and a night under normal circumstances. and the enemy who surrounds us will attack tonight, but I have a way to speed them up. Do you want to settle things here quickly, and then return to the village safely? When Jioshinai heard this, his eyes lit up. She said without hesitation, "Is it okay?" Bei Yan smiled and nodded. "Of course, you're standing behind me." Yes. Uzumaki Jioshinai came behind Bei Yan with a look of anticipation, and his eyes scanned the surroundings. "Don't blink. Don't worry, I've been watching you." Hearing Jioshinai take the opportunity to make sultry words, Bei Yan just smiled and did not speak. "Then let you see what kind of style Mudan is." Huh? Bei Yan ignored Jioshinai's doubts and clasped his hands together. Mudu Flower Tree Realm has arrived. Episode 35. Rumble. Dozens of thick branches with a diameter of 10 meters rose from the ground like tentacles. Under Bei Yan's control, the branches of the trees that were stretching wildly quickly attacked in both north and south directions. Everywhere they went, the peaks and jungle were destroyed. Under the blessing of Bei Yan's continuous chakra, the huge jungle of trees is still growing farther and higher. The people of Yenin Village and Yunin Village, who were still resting in place, were stunned when they saw the super large tree jungle that suddenly erupted. What is this? They're coming, run away, don't. No. I don't want to die. Everyone dispersed and left. The teams of hundreds of people on both sides immediately wanted to flee here after being stunned for a while. However, some people were slower after all, directly pierced by the tip of the spread of the flower and tree world, and finally crushed so that there was no slag left. Not only that, when the tree grows to a certain amount, the huge flower bones are exposed to the air. The huge flower, like a lotus flower, quietly bloomed. The huge lotus bloomed, and the yellow-green mist instantly spread throughout the area. The ninja, who was still fleeing or dodging, accidentally inhaled the yellow-green fog, fell to the ground, and his life and death were unknown. Or roll up a tree trunk that has been entangled in the air and finally crushed into pieces. After Bei Yan sensed that there was no longer any breath of life in that area, he released his palm and suspended the continuation of ninjutsu. At this time Uzumaki Jioshinai, who was temporarily isolated by Bei Yan, and the other 4 people were not affected by the neurotoxin paralysis of pollen. The 4 who were originally asleep are still in their dreams. However, Bei Yan also increased their psychological hypnosis. This is done in case they wake up. For the time being, he didn't want anyone other than himself to know that he could cast Muduan. If these people wake up, he can only rely on hypnosis that has a chance of damaging brain tissue to cut out memories without hurting the killer. It's better to let them know nothing. This. Is this really the ninjutsu you performed? Jioshinai's eyes widened and looked around in disbelief. Originally a place surrounded by mountains, it has been penetrated by several tree trunks and even shattered. Beyond the mountains is the forest sea that spreads into the distance. Above the forest sea, huge lotus-like flowers bloomed, and yellow-green neurotoxin pollen wandered in the air. Even though Bei Yan has suspended the delivery of chakra, there are still many flowers that are releasing yellow-green powder mist. Uzumaki Jioshinai wanted to reach out and touch the place outside the enchantment, but stopped when he was about to touch it. Yen, this pollen. And when did you learn Muduan? It is rumored that only the first-generation Hokage who possesses the Mudu blood succession limit can learn this ninjutsu. Bei Yan, you can actually perform it. She came back to her senses, and could no longer hold back the curiosity in her heart, and looked at Bei Yan with an inquiring gaze. Bei Yan gently calmed the excited vortex Jioshinai. System things can't be said, he can only say that he hid deep enough. This pollen contains a variety of neurotoxins, and even has the power to paralyze shadow-level powerhouses. Speaking of Muduan, in fact, I already sensed the existence of this blood succession limit when I owned chakra. I'm not sure if I'm a member of the Senju clan. I don't know if I am the descendants of the Thousand Hands clan who were originally separated and integrated into the village. But that's not important. And when I was growing up, I always practiced Muduan, but I just didn't get noticed by anyone. You also know the filth and cerebral palsy of the 3 generations of Hokage and Shimura commander, and they will definitely not allow uncontrollable geniuses to jump in front of them. Once you have the slightest doubt, you will be greeted with boundless suspicion and calculation. As soon as Bei Yan finished speaking, Uzumaki Jioshinai couldn't wait to speak. That is, am I the first person to know that you can use Muduan? Uzumaki Jioshinai had inexplicable anticipation and nervousness on her face. Bei Yan, who was asked this, was stunned for a moment and nodded directly. Yay! As soon as he finished speaking, Uzumaki Jioshinai jumped up, his face full of excitement. After seeing that Jioshinai was obviously not because of the power of his ninjutsu, Bei Yan couldn't help but roll his eyes. I made up so much with my heart, that's how you remember the main points? Alas, but Jioshinai is the little cabbage he fancy after all. and he has to accept it, with tears in his eyes. As a master of psychology, Bei Yan quickly saw Joshinai's little Jojo. The point is not on the power of Mudo and ninjutsu. The focus is on who was the first to know about Mudo and ninjutsu. For Bei Yan, surrounded by many girls, Uzumaki Joshinai is aware. She knew she couldn't be the only one. She also doesn't resist the other sisters too much, but she cares about her position in Bei Yan's heart. After hearing that she was the first person to see Bei Yan cast Muduan, she seemed to have defeated the little hen who won the right to choose a mate from her opponent, and the whole person was fluttering. Well, my Mudan is considered to be for the wrong person. Bei Yan couldn't laugh or cry. When Joshinai heard this, he stuck out his little tongue. Immediately, she finally asked some more important questions. Yan, what happened to the ninjas who were chasing us? Have we opened the way to escape? He looked at Joshinai and finally tensed up, and Bei Yan shook his head. This shake of his head almost made Uzumaki Joshinai anxious. Episode 36. Ouch. If you knock me on the head again, I won't be smart. Vortex Joshinai cried out in pain, and was knocked on the door of his head by Bei Yan. Seeing Bei Yan's reaction, she could only pout and did not dodge. Bei Yan did not start again. Indeed, as Joshinai said, if it really causes her IQ to decrease, then it is herself who suffers. Take a good look with Kagura Hard Eye yourself. I really don't know what you use the ability I opened for you. When Joshinai heard this, his eyes slowly widened, and the look in Bei Yan's eyes was, why didn't I think of it? Bei Yan was no longer able to complain. Immediately, Bei Yan sensed a wave of energy different from ordinary perception ninjutsu sweeping from all directions. Uzumaki Joshinai also discovered their tragic situation when he sensed people. In this regard, she not only did not have any pity, but also had a feeling of great revenge. The people of Yunin Village and Yenin Village, in addition to being chasing and killing her in the past few days, also have a feud that does not share the heavens. Although she escaped, because she went to Konoha, but afterwards, she learned that among the people who invaded and slaughtered the Vortex clan were people from Yenin Village and Yunin Village. She didn't know who it was. Therefore, everyone in the Land of Thunder and the Land of Earth was included in the hunting list. You must know that the Uzumaki family is located in the country of whirlpools. Back then, when the Uzumaki clan, that is, the Uzumaki village, was slaughtered, they didn't even let go of the ordinary civilians of the Vortex country. Until now, there are not many remnants of the Vortex country. It's really a good one to kill. Bei Yan sensed the change in Uzumaki Joshinai's mood, came to her, and took her into his arms. At this time, no amount of words can withstand a hug. When Bei Yan used Mudo and Flower Tree Realm Advent, almost the entire ninja realm felt a super huge chakra fluctuation, and the endless vitality, and the Earth's dragon's sense of vibration. Konoha's reinforcements, who were on their way, couldn't sit still after discovering that such a scene had happened in the range of destinations they were supposed to reach. Kensuke, how's it going? Nara Shikahisa looked at Kensuke Hinata, who had white eyes in the team. Hinata Kensuke had already rolled his eyes when the chakra fluctuation came. As he opened his eyes, a chakra frenzy rose out of thin air at a distant destination. Then, there was a constant vibration. Well, what a huge chakra. Kensuke Hinata was a little confused. Huge chakra? Can you tell that location is really where we are going to rescue? Kensuke Hinata looked at Nara Shikahisa. I'm 90% sure it is. When Nara Lujo heard this, his heart suddenly tensed. Almost as soon as Kensuke Hinata said this, he gave the order. All staff, regardless of loss, reach the destination as quickly as possible. The 6 figures on the bright side, as well as the 12 figures in the dark, completed the speed in an instant. Everyone is burning chakra. They want to reach their destination as quickly as possible, and they must not let Uzumaki Joshinai have an accident. Bei Yan, as a shadow doppelganger, still followed the team calmly. Sometimes, it's your opponent who knows you best. This statement still makes a lot of sense. After Buofing Shuimen heard this, he almost wanted to use the Flying Thunder God to fly directly over. However, considering that he did not engrave the Flying Thunder God mark on several people in the distance, he could only do it. However, he looked at Bei Yan with a strange expression. As a person close to Uzumaki Joshinai, why was Bei Yan able to remain calm when he heard that his sweetheart was in danger? Just when Buofing Shuimen was puzzled, he suddenly found that Bei Yan's hands were clenched, and he even trembled a little. The Wave Wind Master suddenly realized. It turns out that he is deliberately suppressing his emotions, no wonder so. But the fact is that Bei Yan successfully deceived Buofing Shuimen with his unmatched psychological master ability. Not only Konoha, the pair of centaurs changed their strategy, but even there were people inside Konoha who told about this. What just happened? As Naruto's words fell, a ninja from Konoha's enchantment class knelt on one knee. He immediately said the amount of chakra he saw and the breath of life force. The huge chakra also has extremely vigorous vitality. It seems that I have to send someone over. Let Zoyan go. Yes. A member of the Dark Division appears and leaves again. After waiting until the sealed man left, Ape Flying Sun took another sip of hookah. This, for some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart. Konoha roots. Danzo had just come out of the training base and sat on the main seat, looking at the Hokage costume in front of him, and fell into thought. Suddenly, the earth-shattering chakra appeared in the distant sky, making him stand up on the spot. Then, what made him wonder was that his sealed shoulder showed signs of imminent movement. What's going on? Soon, someone who had ambushed himself in the Konoha enchantment class explained the matter. No, there is such a thing on the border of Konoha, which is bound to endanger Konoha. I must go over and correct my mistakes, and I must nip the danger in the bud. Get ready, and leave in 10 minutes. Yes, the root members who followed behind him immediately left in an instant to prepare. Senju clanland, Uchiha clanland. Compared to the rest of the people, Tsunade, Uchiha Makoto, and Uchiha Aki, who were very familiar with Katayan, and even the medicine master Nanoyu, all looked at the place where the chakra rose. In this chakra, they thought of a familiar person. After thinking back to the other party's chakra amount, which was more terrifying than the Vortex clan and the Senju clan, he was 80% sure of the identity of the person who released such power. They were all wondering, if it was Bei Yan, what exactly did he encounter to erupt such a huge chakra fluctuation? Episode 37. Mikoto-sama, Lord Bei Yan will be fine. Uchiha Aki, who originally looked cold and expressionless, had a little worry on his face. Emotional changes that seemed impossible to see in ordinary people are now truly manifested. Trust him. Mikoto Uchiha took a deep breath. Yaji, you also sensed it, when Yen tempered the chakra eye for you. Uchiha Makoto looked at her good sister and personal guard. Meeting Uchiha Makoto's gaze, Uchiha Yaki rarely dared not look directly at each other. She organized her language a little and said what she knew. When Lord Bei Yan tempered my spiritual power for me, I don't know if it was because of his spiritual power and chakra that entered my spiritual world. I can roughly estimate the strength of Lord Bei Yan. Speaking of this, Uchiha Yaji's face flashed a crimson, as if he remembered that when he tempered his spiritual power, he would make Yaji, who had been an iceberg for 10,000 years in front of outsiders, couldn't help but be shy. Lord Bei Yan's strength. Uchiha Yaji thought about it carefully, and now he still meant to gasp a little. His strength should be shadow level, stronger than the third-generation Hokage. Moreover, if I am not mistaken, the amount of chakra of Lord Bei Yan is at least 50 or so of me. When the words fell, Uchiha looked at Uchiha Makoto. A smile was outlined at the corner of Uchiha Makoto's mouth, and a smile was on her face. That's right. You may be because you have just made mental contact with him, and you don't know how fast his strength has improved. When I first knew him, he was at the level of shinobi. After 3 months, he reached the strength of the elite upper ninja, and the amount of chakra will increase by about 1.5 me almost every day. Knowing that day he helped me write a kaleidoscope of chakra eye promotion, I found out that Yen had been promoted to the shadow level, and he was still a shadow level powerhouse stronger than the third generation of Hokage. So, Yaji, trust him. When Uchiha Aki heard this, he felt a little strange. She suddenly realized that Makoto's words were too ambiguous, afraid that it was not to cause misunderstanding. She quickly wanted to explain, but was stopped by Makoto. I agreed. Do you want to try it? Makoto Uchiha is in a calm mood, not pretending to be generous, but genuinely wanting to ask her good sister if she is interested. This is also an official showdown. Uchiha Yaki opened his mouth several times. His face was extremely rosy, and he had his own careful thoughts about being exposed to the sense of social death in broad daylight. But she still met Makoto's gaze. There are some things that she will not hesitate to go to even if she knows that it may be a moth to the fire. Really? Of course. Makoto Uchiha nodded in reply without hesitation. I'm going to. I want to. The following words, Uchiha Aki couldn't say anything, but the firmness contained in her eyes had been accurately conveyed to Uchiha Makoto. The corners of Uchiha Makoto's mouth smiled even more, and she pulled Uchiha Aki into the room. She wanted to take herself as a person to pay attention to some points to inform the sister who looked cold but was ignorant in the face of Bei Yan, a family of 1,000 hands. Tsunade was attracted by this chakra and the breath of life that was similar, and his brows furrowed involuntarily. She didn't guess wrong. This should be the guy from Bei Yan. Don't ask how she knows. Anyone who is run back and forth by the other person's chakra every day, you will be familiar with it. It's just that this breath of life also has a familiar taste. It is so similar to Bei Yan, who runs through himself with chakra. No, she quickly determined that this was the breath of life exuded by Bei Yan. Just as she was speculating, a voice came from behind her. Tsunade, is this chakra someone you know? Bei Yan's chakra and life breath are very peculiar. If it is not for someone he recognizes or has in-depth communication, even if he launches a perception ninjutsu, he cannot confirm it. Therefore, even if it was Uzumaki Mito with Kagura's hard eye, and even when she opened Kagura's hard eye to check Bei Yan when Bei Yan came over, she still couldn't find that it was Bei Yan's chakra. It could be him. Tsunade's words did not hesitate. It was clear that the words maybe were just a cover-up. Uzumaki Mito's kind face looked at Tsunade, and she slowly approached her. While walking, he used the Uzumaki clan's unique sound transmission secret technique to inform her of the secret he had discovered. Tsunade, this breath of life, if I am not mistaken, has the same essence as your grandfather, Tsunade looked at Grandma Mito with wide eyes, greeted by the thunder of the other party's last two words. Mu done. After this, Tsunade couldn't listen to what Grandma Mito said. She knew that Bei Yan was definitely not a defective product made by Konoha's high level using her grandfather's cells. Then, it is very likely to be a member of your own family. After all, only the Thousand Hands clan could give birth to Muduan. She wanted to go over and take a look, but seeing her grandmother's appearance, she gave up. Tsunade only hoped that Kita Yen would be able to return to Konoha before his plans began. Otherwise, Episode 38. In addition to some of the stronger ninjas in Konoha village, the Land of Fire, who sensed this chakra, many people in other countries also sensed the appearance of this chakra. Under a makeshift 4-bedroom house, raindrops fell onto the ground. A man with white hair leaned lazily against the pillar. When this chakra erupted, he looked at the place where it erupted. After a slight hesitation, he still chose to ignore it. He didn't intend to continue to pay attention to worldly things. And now he only wanted to teach these disciples who had not yet been able to soar away from him. When they have the power to protect themselves, he will choose to travel the world. Or rather, away from the Land of Fire, away from Konoha village. Tsukinoku, Iwahide village. Les, who had just rushed back, and the 3 generations of Tokei Jinoki met together, and before they could explain the robbery of credit and the current situation of the 4-tailed and 5-tailed riots, they were attracted to this chakra. They stood quietly on top of the Earth Shadow building, looking at the place where the original Les performed the task. After a long time, Les, fortunately you are back. Hearing his father's words, Les nodded subconsciously. He only felt extremely happy at the moment. Even, he had to thank the person and family who snatched his task. Decided, after this matter is over, he will definitely send 10 penance as a thank you. Land of Thunder, Yunin Village, Thunder Shadow Office. Boom. The 3 generations of Laying were fierce and casually slapped their palms on the table. Suddenly, a huge palm print appeared in it. Thunder Shadow, who was known as the strongest spear that could suppress the yaoi, looked in the direction of Chakra's outbreak at this time, and was angry and corrupted. Damn, it was Blai who chased those ninjas. And now it seems that something has happened. Alan, you remember to call someone to follow. When the words fell, the 3 generations of Thunder Shadows directly broke through the window. With his fierce physique and strength, he jumped directly from the peak of several kilometers. Then a few helps disappeared into the mountains. At this time, the helpless voice of the secretary came from behind him. Lord Laying, please don't jump out of the window. The money is burning. The Land of Water, an extremely hidden underground space somewhere. A huge and hideous outer path golem was summoned, and countless thick pipes protruded from its body. One of the thick tubes connected the emaciated, swollen man. Even if the man has gray hair and a tall figure, it is still difficult to hide the fierce aura exuded by the other party. It was as if this person was born strong and born king. The man's lowered head, when this chakra erupted, suddenly raised his head, and his eyes looked at the direction where the chakra erupted was. His original black and white eyes suddenly appeared with 3 jade riding wheel eyes. This chakra. Could it be a tailed beast? No, although the chakra level is infinitely close, it is not a tailed beast. And this breath of life. Old man Xiao couldn't help but bow his head to his heart, and then looked at the huge outer Dao golem behind him. Impossible. When pigs fly. Black Jeopardy. With the old man's order, strange creatures with black and white half their bodies sneaked out from the ground. It has a pitcher grass-like encirclement on its shoulders, which looks like a sweet tea difference from humans. The most surprising thing is that this composite human does not have a human reproductive system. Madara-sama, I sensed it. It is similar to the life force between your old opponent Thousand Hand Pillars, but it must not be him. Of course, this breath makes me very yearning. Black and white individuals obviously look the same person, but can make 2 sounds, and can also think differently. Go check it out. I'm nearing my birthday and don't want anything more unplanned. Yes, Madara-sama. Asterisk 2. Black and white absolutes took orders, and immediately summoned dozens of white absolutes with white all over their bodies, to scatter. They themselves dived underground and then disappeared. In this regard, Uchiha has long been accustomed to it. That's right, this old man who seems to be dying is exactly the figure who dominated the ninja world decades ago. The strongest patriarch of the Uchiha clan in history, Uchiha Madara. According to rumors, Uchiha was killed by Senjakuma long ago and saw his burial with his own eyes. Now it appears in a secret base in the Land of Water. For decades after that, no one even discovered his existence. If the fact that Uchiha is still alive is known to the world, it will definitely cause turmoil in the entire ninja world, and panic among all ninjas. Even though he looked old and had difficulty even moving, he was just barely surviving. The shadow of a famous tree. After all, he was one of the strongest people in the ninja world. As black and white departed, Uchiha lay back again. He is looking for the right pawn, but he is not enough to die now. He had to live for a while, and the black and white absolute that had left here were speeding at an extremely fast speed. Along the way, Baiju was talking, and Heiju didn't say half a word. Mu Dun should only be able to awaken if he inherits the Indra Chakra, Indra Mark, and the bloodline of the Thousand Hands clan. As for the rest of the Mu Duan, they are all uncontrollable and extremely powerful variants. The owner of this chakra is too strong, and with Mu Dun's blessing, it will definitely have an unpredictable impact on his plan. Thinking of this, Heiju's face was heavy. He must keep an eye on this guy. Otherwise, once he fails, how can he be worthy of his mother? Episode 39. Time passed, and the Konoha support team finally arrived near their destination in the early hours of the morning, regardless of chakra's consumption. And Bei Yan, who sensed the arrival of the shadow doppelganger, gently pushed Uzumaki Joshinai, who fell asleep in his arms. Joshinai, wake up. Even in the wild, as long as Bei Yan is around, Uzumaki Joshinai sleeps very sweetly. However, hearing Bei Yan's words, she immediately sobered up. Konoha reinforcements are 20 kilometers away. I'm going to disarm the shadow doppelganger. You will remember to pretend to be unconscious later. Okay. When Joshinai heard this, she watched Bei Yan leave her side. Her eyes scanned the surroundings, and while falling to the ground, she sensed the situation around her. At this time, she was still in the position where she had pretended to faint, and the rest of the people were also leaning on the rock wall. Nowadays, the pollen in the air is blown away by the wind, and it has no effect on the stronger ninjas. The enchantment was also removed. After seeing that there was indeed no mistake, Uzumaki Joshinai closed his eyes. Between the flickering figures, Bei Yan appeared in the flower tree realm and descended into the jungle. He just needs to wait here, and then his shadow avatar will sense that it is coming here quickly. Just as Kitayama was ready, the team led by Nara Shikamaru stopped 15 kilometers away. It was not that they did not want to move forward, but they all looked at the scene in front of them in unison. Even the members of the dark department who followed secretly, their eyes behind the mask were wide, and their hearts were both frightened and shocked. They even forgot that they were still in the chakra burning and that the basic adjustments were not made. How could it be? As the most prestigious family, Nara Shikahisa is also a very high IQ, which is naturally displayed in all aspects. Among them, knowledge and vision are part of it. Muduan, Nara Deer has not seen the actual one for a long time. However, he was able to know which ninjutsu caused the huge jungle in front of him based on the pictures of the books recorded by his family. Mudu Flower Tree Realm Arrival. When he saw the flowers blooming above the huge jungle, this answer was about to come out. Muduan. Apart from the original Hokage, how could anyone else be able to learn Muduan? Nara Shikaku was muttering, and among the rest of the people, there was no change except for Bei Yan's original expression. Even Bo Feng Shui Men, he has always been very proud that he can learn the art of Flying Thunder God, and his heart trembles. This range of ninjutsu is not comparable to the art of the Flying Thunder God. Just as everyone was focusing on the huge bushes in front of them, Bei Yan's shadow avatar flew forward one by one. I'll go find Joshinai. As the shadow doppelganger's words fell, the rest of the people waited to stop Bei Yan's shadow doppelganger, but they didn't have much chakra at this time. Looking at the huge bushes in front of him, God knows if the person who released this ninjutsu is still inside. I don't know if it's friend or foe. If you rush in, there is likely to be a big problem. But seeing Bei Yan stepping forward without hesitation, how could Nara Shikaku, as the leader and friend, let Bei Yan's stomach pass? Even if the decision to immediately follow was very wrong, he could only keep up. Watergate, mark well. Bluffing Shuemen nodded. It's done. Nara Shikahisa gave the first instruction. Everyone, take the antidote in advance and immediately follow. Do your best to find Uzumaki Joshinai and others. If you are not defeated, retreat immediately. Yes, everyone listened. Guided by Kensu Kanata, they all sped forward after taking the antidote pill. And the shadow avatar of Bei Yan, when he came to a place that was closer, dissolved the shadow avatar on his own. The information transmitted back by the shadow doppelganger let Bei Yan know what happened to the team along the way. In this way, there will be no misunderstanding because I have not personally experienced this period of time when we meet. After he waited for a few minutes, several cracking sounds came from behind him. The other party can suppress the voice to come. Bei Yan, you are too reckless. The air is filled with pollen neurotoxins. Bei Yan looked back at the people, and among them, the members of the dark department had dispersed and searched everywhere. Don't worry, I'm also a medical ninja, and this little toxicity is nothing to me. Then, without waiting for Nara Shikaku to speak, he pointed directly in one direction. I sensed that they might be there. Suddenly, he leaped past again. Kensu Kanata rolled his eyes and immediately looked in the direction Kitayama was pointing. Through the many obstacles, he finally saw several figures falling to the ground. Found the figure of suspected Joshinai. The other party is in a coma. When Nara Shikahisa and Bluffing Shuemen and the others heard this, they accelerated their pace even more. After a few kilometers forward, Bei Yan pretended to be surprised, and a somersault fell to the ground. The people who followed behind also found that where Bei Yan stopped, several figures appeared. After confirming that there were no traps around, Bei Yan was the first to step forward and hold Uzumaki Joshinai in his arms. The late wave Feng Shui man paused in place, and after sighing slightly, he went to check the situation of the rest of the people. Great, just fainted, some non-fatal injuries on the body, everything else is fine. Nara Shikahisa's medical skills were very good, and he quickly diagnosed the condition of these people. However, if you want to get better quickly, you need the treatment of palm cactus. His gaze looked at Bei Yan, who was performing the palm cactus technique on Uzumaki Gyoshinai. After learning that Uzumaki Gyoshinai was not injured, but only fainted, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. By this time, their squad was half completed on the task. All that remains is to safely rush back to Konoha. Episode 40. After Bei Yan treated Kosuka, Rika, and 2 other members of the Dark Division, several people woke up. The moment they woke up, when they saw where they were, they subconsciously became vigilant. After talking, "So you fainted without knowing it?" Bluffing Shuemen was the first to raise questions. Gyoshinai and the other 4 nodded. Everyone waited thoughtfully. When they first came here, they did not find any traces of falling into illusion. In other words, the 5 people are indeed not because of ninjutsu. However, as the captain, Narashikahiza looked around and made a decision in his heart. Bei Yan, Uncle Kosuka, Rika, as well as Mo Crow and Shigawa, you immediately set off to return to Konoha. Don't stay here. Mo Crow and Shigawa are the 2 elite shinobi who followed to support, and now they have switched to the task of protecting Uzumaki Gyoshinai. The 2 dark parts that originally protected Uzumaki Gyoshinai need to stay here. Although they passed out, they may be able to spot something in the clues. I have a presumption that what happens here will attract a lot of unnecessary people. For your safety, especially Gyoshinai, be sure to leave immediately. The rest wait, follow me and stay nearby. I'm sure Naruto-sama will send someone over soon, and we need to help when the time comes. Everyone had no opinion on Narashikahiza's arrangement. Even Bluffing Shuemen showed obedience to his stay. He has already given up, and he is no longer entangled. After seeing the other party's attitude of giving up, Bei Yan was originally ready to pit the other party's mind, but it was enough to pit it half dead. The identity and importance of Uzumaki Gyoshinai are placed here, and there is no room for the slightest mistake. Bei Yan didn't care about this. He didn't care about the shocking scenes he made and the impact on the ninja world. What if you know it's Muduan? Anyway, you won't find out it yourself. The only breakthrough that can be found here is Uzumaki Gyoshinai, but will he let those people disturb him as he wishes? Okay, then let's go first. Nara Lujio looked at Bei Yan and agreed cheerfully, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He actually wants to go back. What happened here was obviously a big problem, but he was most afraid of trouble. Subsequently, Bei Yan and everyone did not delay and immediately set off to return. As for the rest, they immediately searched the area in all directions. Before the rest of the ninja village people came, they needed to find out why the ninjutsu, Flower Tree Realm Descend, appeared here. When Bei Yan, Gyoshinai, and the rest of the people they protected set foot in the territory of the Fire Nation, their hearts finally relaxed a little. As long as you are in your own country, no matter what happens, you have the initiative and confidence. Unlike when performing missions in other countries, you cannot reveal your tolerance and helplessness at that moment. At this moment, Uzumaki Gyoshinai hung directly on Bei Yan's back, emitting a subtle and long snoring sound. Kosuka and Rika, who followed on the side, and even the dark part that was secretly guarding, looked at Bei Yan and Gyoshinai, as if looking at a pair of immortals. It's nice to be young. Kosuka flew over several treetops and muttered in his mouth. As a girl's ideal, it is even more envious. To be honest, she also wanted such a handsome, considerate, attentive and caring man. Time is ticking. Considering that even if you come to the territory of the Land of Fire, it may not necessarily be completely safe. Along the way, every time Bei Yan and Gyoshinai stopped, they just made simple repairs. The rest of the time, I've been on the road. Finally, after 2 days and 1 night of non-stop attacks, they came to the gate of Konoha, breathlessly. Woohoo dash. In the silent night, the voices of 6 panting people alarmed the Konoha ninja who were keeping vigil at the door. What people? The ninja in charge of duty was still yelling at who was coming. When he found the leader of the person with sword eyebrows, a handsome familiar face, and a red-haired girl following him, and an uncle ninja carrying a pot, he immediately knew who was coming. Lord Bei Yan. Kosuka-sama. And, the guards hurriedly stepped forward to salute, and the group of 6 people said that they did not need to do so. Simple registration, after no problems were found in the enchantment class. The 2 dark ninjas were the first to go to the Naruto building. Bei Yan and Gyoshinai followed. Perhaps it was discovered that in the country of sound, Mudu and Flower Tree Realm Advent, an earth-shattering ninjutsu. In addition, as the next pillar force, Uzumaki Gyoshinai has not returned to the village safely. Even though it was 3 o'clock in the morning, the Hokage office was still brightly lit. The 3rd generation of Hokage Abe Hibiki was still sitting in Hokage's office, reviewing documents. From time to time, he received information from members of the Dark Department and analyzed and estimated the situation in the country of sound. Suddenly, the appearance of the 2 members of the Dark Department made the somewhat anxious ape flying son breathe a sigh of relief. In other words, Gyoshinai returned safely, right? Yes, Naruto-sama. Phew. With a puff of smoke coming out, Ape Flying Sun Chopper could finally put this matter down. What about them? On the way to Hokage's office. Well, I'll see you. As soon as the words of the Ape Flying Sun fell, there was a knock outside the door. After receiving the promise, Bei Yan, Uzumaki Gyoshinai, Kosuka, and Rika walked in one after another. Sarutobi didn't ask anything, but after some comfort and drawing a pie, he once again talked about the importance of the will to start fire. After some brainwashing, Bei Yan took Vortex Joshinai to leave. Seeing that it was already early in the morning, Bei Yan had to let Uzumaki Joshinai sleep in his own house.